Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verses 9 through 12. Two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. Also, if two lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken.
Well, good morning, church. Good morning. I don't usually have a water bottle up here, and so maybe you're thinking, oh, you brought a prop like Aaron always brings. Because Aaron, I think he's becoming the guy who brings the props. So it's a lot of pressure. This has nothing to do with my message. I just have had a cough, so don't get too excited. But it's good to be here today with you and continue on in this series and to kind of close it out. And if you've been with us for the last 6 weeks, you know that we've been in a series called That's What I Love About Sundays. And so that's if you've been with us. If you haven't been with us, maybe you thought, oh my gosh, have I missed us singing that song every week? Like this is based on the title of a song, a very popular country song. That's what I love about Sundays. So if you haven't been here, I'm going to bum you out. We haven't sung that song once. We're not singing it today, and I think it's fair to assume we probably will. I shouldn't say probably. We're never going to sing that song here, okay? Which, if you have been with us, that has bummed you out probably. Like you've been waiting for it. Like you want to hear a song about fried chicken and baked beans and somebody waking up to the smell of jasmine from their nap, right? I mean, that's how the song goes. Somebody in first service was very familiar with those lyrics and began singing the rest of the song. He was right down front. Thank you for not joining into that. But our focus of this title has only been using the title. And our focus has instead been to look at the things that we do as a church, our core practices. And if you've been with us for very long, you know this is something we do every year. That each year we have a different title to it, but every year we take a look at our core practices and the things that we do on Sundays and how those tilt the floor, so to speak, for the other 6 days a week, and how these can become daily practices for us and things that we long to do when we are together on Sundays. And so just as a refresher, here's how we've identified those things: biblical teaching, communion, prayer, generosity, and today as we wrap up is the idea of living in community, being committed to one another day in and day out. And not just a casual commitment, but a true kind of relentless commitment that we are pursuing this with everything that we have, placing a very high value on being with other people, being with one another, and seeing the benefit of living in community and growing as believers. And so for some of us, this is a core practice. Like, you don't need us as a church to tell you that living in community should be a core practice. Like, you love being with other people. You get a lot of energy from being with other people. You look forward to any social gathering you can be a part of. And so this really is something you love about Sundays. You love coming into this room. You sometimes are late coming into the room because you're in the lobby. You get stuck not just in the lobby, but maybe even in the parking lot. You know, you're pulling in and you're rolling down your windows and waving at people, and you just love that about Sundays. And you get in here. You love our welcome time. You are late getting back to your seat because you're across the room or wherever, saying hi to people. You just draw energy from it. I know some of you serve on our host team. right? You're the people that are in the lobby, or you're outside in the wintertime welcoming people and bringing them into the building. Some of you serve in our kids ministry, and you love being down there with kids, and you can't wait to be with them and invest in them. Some of you serve in our student ministry. Some of you are vital parts of our food pack. You love not just putting the stuff in the bags, but you love just the energy in that room, being with other people. And then there's the opposite group. There's some of you that would say, yeah, I love Sundays. I love Lakeside. I come here, but it's not for the people. Like, you come in and you like the way this room is set up. You like sitting in rows facing forward. You are a fan a little bit of when the lights go down, because that means less attention on anyone else. Just, I don't want to talk to anyone. Please don't greet me at the door. We get to the welcome time and you hate it. You're like, no, that's not for me. You're not on the host team. We've not asked you to be on the host team because we know too, right? You don't want to do that. You're not serving in kids ministry. You're wondering, like, is there like a closet ministry? Like, can I just, like you wouldn't say you're antisocial. You're just not pro-social, right? And so maybe you're sitting in the balcony right now. I don't know. Or maybe you're fooling us and you're down front. I don't know. And then there's the rest of us, right? The rest of us are people that you look forward to Sundays. You love Sundays, and you come, and maybe you do serve on the host team or in kids or students, or maybe you serve in a different area, but you like being with other people. You say hello to people. You enjoy the time together. Maybe you're in a group as well, and you're active in many ways, but you also get a lot of energy and satisfaction in your walk with the Lord being by yourself. And so when we've covered some of our other core practices, you've identified with those just as much. You enjoy the biblical teaching and taking notes and pondering that in your own personal quiet time. And you look forward to communion every week, because in those few moments and the things that you're guided and directed in, you can reflect upon that, not just with other people, but by yourself, and to think through those things. And you love giving to something that you get to be a part of, whether you get to do it with other people or not. And you're in community, and you're just kind of in the middle. And so regardless of where you're at with that, my hope is that we turn it up, that every single one of us, that if you're all about the gathering and you live in community, that you create perhaps more balance in your life, but you continue to get better at that and drawing other people into it. If you've not yet stepped into it, either because you just haven't known how or you've refused up until now, we want you to get into it. You need to get into it. It's one of our core practices, or you're in the middle, that you just continue to hone that and get better at it. And so from the beginning of time, we see that this is a value. In Genesis chapter 1 and 2, we get this creation account of when God created the heavens and the earth and the things that he created. And you get to chapter 2, verse 18. And this verse says, "The Lord God said, 'It is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him.'" And so 2 chapters into the scriptures, God has created Adam and he creates Eve. And you get the first marriage, but you also get the beginning of people living with one another. You get the beginning of people having to figure out, how do I get along with someone else? How do I make this work? How do I do this alongside of someone else? And so while this passage does introduce us to Adam and Eve in the context of the marriage that God created, the truth is that whether we ever marry or not, living solo lives that are void of any type of relationship with others, it's not what God intended for us. God said that's not good. From the time he created the very first people until truly the world comes to an end, we are called to live in a relationship with one another. One of the wisest people who ever lived, Aaron mentioned him a little bit last week when he spoke about generosity, but Solomon. Solomon's known as one of the wisest people that ever lived, and if you know anything about the life of Solomon, he admittedly had his own set of relationship issues, right? I mean, Solomon was somebody that lived in community. He spent time with a lot of different people. And so he had a reputation for having to figure out a lot of things. His family was complicated. His relationships romantically were complicated. Just so many different things. He's the one that wrote those verses you just heard read. He wrote the book of Ecclesiastes. It's common to believe that he's the author of this. And as he's writing Ecclesiastes, if you know anything about the book, it can be an up and down roller coaster of a book. It's like 1 minute things are going really good, and the next minute it's like, yeah, but it's really bad. And then we're up again, but here comes the rain. It's just everything. And over you get this phrase, everything is meaningless. And it's really just this cyclical prose and poetry book of the observations of life and what to take from it. And so in verse 8, the verse right before what Cindy read, Solomon describes this. He says, there was a man all alone. He had neither son nor brother. There was no end to his toil, yet his eyes were not content with his wealth. For whom am I toiling, he asked, and why am I depriving myself of enjoyment? This too is meaningless, a miserable business. And so who is he describing? He's describing a man who is all alone. He has no family, he says. And from what I would deduce from the rest of the verse, how it plays out, he not only has no family, he doesn't seem to have any friends or companions. He doesn't have any real deep formed relationship with anyone. But what is he doing? He's working hard. He's hustling. He's doing well for himself in terms of society. So much so that Solomon calls him wealthy. And I think that's significant, and this is not a message about generosity and wealth, but I think that's significant in that the person that calls this guy wealthy is not only known as one of the wisest person that ever lived, he was also one of the richest. And so if one of the richest people that ever lived, somebody that knew what it was like to have possessions and to amass those things, is talking about someone else, and he calls that person wealthy, I think that's a big deal. It's like, oh, okay, like this guy from the world standards, it seemed, had a lot. But what's the problem? The problem is he has no contentment. The problem is there's no satisfaction. This guy in this verse, there's something off, and he can feel it, and he asks himself, why am I even doing this? Why have I structured my life like this? Why do I feel so deprived? Why do I feel so empty? Why am I so alone and unsatisfied? Why do I have no enjoyment? And Solomon makes the obvious statement. This way of life is meaningless. He goes as far as to say it is a miserable business. I mean, you think about the mindset of this guy. This was written a very long time ago. But this could be written today. This could be written about the things that our society upholds today when it comes to the way that you find contentment and you find how your life could be led. Don't have any real deep relationship. Don't deprive yourself of anything. Work hard, play hard. But don't let anybody in. Don't go deep with anyone. Do whatever it takes to get ahead. Amass more. Yes, meet the standard that the world would say, oh, wow, you've got it all together. Rise and grind. Look at what you do. Look at how you operate. But deep down, if you really thought about it, it's empty. I mean, society says, delay settling down. Just wait. There's still more time for you to do the things. Don't be tied down by what a relationship or letting somebody in would cause. Keep going. Does that sound like anybody you know? Have you ever felt that way? Embracing isolation and a lack of real and true relationship, it's a miserable business indeed. Which takes us back to our stage verses. 2 are better than 1 because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up, but pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. Also, if 2 lie down together, they will keep warm, but how can one keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, 2 can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. So what's he saying here? He's saying just one more person. It can make life so much better. And he gives multiple reasons for this. Multiple reasons that says this isn't just a better way, this is the way, this is the best way to live. And these reasons he gives demonstrate why a commitment to one another has to be a core practice of ours as well. The first part, he says 2 are better than 1. Why? Because they have a good return for their labor. So another way to put this would be a commitment to one another. It brings productivity and it accomplishes more. Working together is good. 2 or more people can accomplish more than someone who just tries to do everything by themselves. And I know what some of you are thinking. You don't know the people I work with. Or you don't know what house I live in. You know, like, I do it my way. I feel this way all the time. You know, I'm in my house and I'm doing it and it's going good. And then my wife says, that's not how you do the dishes. And it works every time. I go, okay, then you do it, right? No, I'm just teasing. No, 2 or more can accomplish more. Working alongside of others with a common goal accomplishes so much more. How do I know this is true for us as a church? Well, a few weeks ago, on a Saturday morning, hundreds of us put on matching t-shirts and gathered and scattered for something we call Serve NKY. Many of you were a part of that. An annual Serve Day that's meant to not just be an annual thing, but rather lead to daily lives of serving others and in our community and doing that together. And Serve NKY is a huge demonstration of this idea that 2 are better than 1 when it comes to productivity and just accomplishing more. Because every single one of those organizations or places that we went, we didn't just say, what do you need done? And they told us, and then we said, okay, we have one person for that. Okay, we have one person for that. We have one person for that. One of those locations, it's become a little near and dear to my heart because of some people that have called that place home. It's a nursing home and a facility not too far from here called Madonna Manor. And it's become a little near and dear to my heart, not just because of the people that have called it home, but I on a monthly basis go and do a church service there, where I meet with the residents and we do we take communion together on a monthly basis, and they look forward to that. And I do a short little message, and I look forward to it because it's also a little bit of a challenge every time I go. Because the majority of the people that I meet with and gather with there have a lot of memory issues and are just dealing with things like that. And so I can never continue on with what we talked about. I never have the luxury of coming in and going, if you've been with me over the last few months, you may remember we've talked about what we love about Wednesdays together here at Madonna Manor. Like, I can't do that. And so every month is like starting over and learning my name again. And we sent a group there. We didn't send one person. We sent a group. And before they went, we had cards that they could write on and sign and stuff these goodie bags to take to the residents there. And that was just one place where we did that type of thing. And maybe you were a part of something else. I myself got to do some manual labor at a summer camp not too far from here. And I got to weed eat and do some other stuff. And just even thinking about that project. We accomplished so much at that camp because multiple people went to do all of that yard work. And in all of those, it took a team of people that we were able to accomplish more together. A couple weeks ago, I had the privilege of working with our kids team on kids camp. Kids camp is coming up later this summer. We have almost 300 kids that are going to be in this room and all over the rest of the building. It's just going to be bonkers. And one of the things that makes it bonkers is how do you figure out how to get almost 300 kids where they need to be and not run into each other, and how do we use the parking lot in this room and our bathrooms and the water slide and all of these things and make all of this schedule work. So a couple weeks ago, myself and our kids team were trying to figure out the schedule. And we had 6 different groups of kids. We had broken up into 6 different groups of kids, and we had the start time and the end time of camp, and the only fixed kind of time in the schedule was kind of how do we rotate with lunch, and because that's a lot of kids to feed at once. How do we do it? But the rest, how do we just move them around, right? And it took us hours. I mean, we started in on it, and there was smoke coming out of our ears, and I mean, we were just like, we just couldn't figure it out, and I'm sure afterwards one of you is going to come up and tell me some mathematical equation, like, well, you should have used this, right? Well, we thought of that, and I even resorted to something that, I'm going to be honest, it's a new part of technology. I hate it. It scares me. It's listening to us right now. ChatGPT. Like, you ever use that? Stop, okay? Don't do it. But I figured in that instance, there has to be some sort of equation, something that I don't know. There has to be like something that'll like do the work for us, so to speak. There has to be some sort of framework. So we tried it with ChatGPT. Guess what? ChatGPT couldn't figure it out. It was like, yes. But then I couldn't figure it out either. So then I was like, okay. And I had to go on to another meeting that day. And I sent a text to one of my coworkers and said, how did it go? Did you guys get it figured out? And she said, yeah, we sorted it out. And even though I wasn't there at the end for the solution, I felt so much pride. Not just in me, but our team. That it was more than one person committed to that. And the rest of our staff that didn't even work on that project that day, they noticed. Like all day they were like, what are you guys doing in there? Like, what's going on in there? How come you guys are in there so long? And it just impressed upon me so much, this idea, that together we're able to accomplish so much more. He continues on, he says, if either one of them falls down, one can help the other up, but pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. A commitment to one another does what? It provides help when you need it most. For some of you that know me, this is going to come as a shock, but a few weeks ago I had some car trouble. I say it's going to come as a shock because if you've known me for longer than like 2 days now, you know I have constant car trouble. Like, this has been a weird season of just cars. My brother-in-law during our welcome time says, I think one of your cars might get blown up by a helicopter next. I'm not sure. But a few weeks ago, in the course of doing some mechanical stuff with our big SUV that we have, it's getting up in miles, and we've had incredible adventures with it. If you go on Facebook right now, you'll see I'm selling it, and I wrote this really ornate description of all that. Please buy my junker. Anyway, it finally reached a point where it's like, hey, I think you need a new transmission. And I was like, I'm out. Like, I had to call it. And so we made the decision to call it, and I parked it down at my in-laws' house. They bought a house recently 8 doors down from us that's a big, huge rehab project, and that's a sermon for a different day. I'm just kidding. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm excited about the project, but also having them so close. But because they're not living in it yet, they have this big open driveway. And so I parked the Yukon down there, and my mom got a new car, and she said, well, with all that car trouble, here's this old car. And so she gave me an old car. So I had 5 cars and 4 drivers. 2 of the drivers are 16 and 20. And I don't know if you know this about the insurance industry right now, but it's really affordable. Yeah. So in my wisdom and thinking, like, how can I be more generous? Aaron said we have to be more generous, right? I'm going to drop the insurance on the Yukon. I don't need full coverage on a car that needs a new transmission and we're never driving. So I dropped the insurance on it. A week later, we had a huge storm come through northern Kentucky, and a tree, and not just a little tree, a big old tree in the neighbor's yard for my in-laws fell on the Yukon. This is great, guys. And so one of my other coworkers, she was the first one to discover it. She lives not too far from me, and she sent me a text first thing in the morning, next morning, and said, "Boy, God sure does provide. Now you don't even have to fix it. You'll get all the insurance money." No. Full coverage car insurance is the only thing that will cover that calamity, and I did not have that. So I texted her back and told her that. She still hasn't replied, so she doesn't care about community. I'm just teasing. So I'm like, what do I do? And so one of my dear friends, his name's Trent. He goes here. He serves on our safety team. He's an incredible friend. I said, "Hey, will you help me cut this thing up?" And so Friday morning, he met me down there. And guys, I have a chainsaw. It's a chainsaw. It's about this big. And I go down there, and we meet up in the morning, and we're getting ready. And he opens up the bed of his truck. And the first thing I see is this little electric chainsaw made by Black & Decker. And I thought, oh, I'm safe. Like, this is going to take hours, but I still feel like a man. And then he moved that out of the way. I did not know they made chainsaws as big as the one Trent pulled out of his truck. I mean, Steel makes some really good products. I had no idea they were that good. I mean, I've never seen a chainsaw as big as the one that Trent pulled out of his truck, and that wasn't just it. He pulled out like the cool ear muffs, ear protection is vital. He always says safety is everyone's priority, and so he puts those on, and then he put on like these leathery canvas like chaps that I think he was a logger, like before he joined the church or something, and just humbled me in terms of my ability, but also just set to work. And it took us just a few hours. And not only could I have not done it without him, but he was there when I needed him. Like, I needed help, and he's like, I'm there. And he made quick work of it. And it was just incredible. About 5.5 months ago, there was a family in our church who one night, everything seemed normal, and all of a sudden, their daughter collapsed at her gymnastics class. She does like competitive tumbling and gymnastics, and they had no idea what was going on, and they call the parents, and they put her in an ambulance, and they rush her to Children's Hospital, and they have no idea, did she do a routine wrong, or one of her, like, did she fall on her head, or just, they weren't even sure what was going on. And I remember rushing to the ER at Children's and walking in and being filled of people that call this place home, that knew that she was there and that they were there, and they did the same. They rushed there to be with the family and to figure it out. And what followed were sleepless hours that first night of what's happening, and neurological tests and all of these things. And in the days that followed, it was an incredible demonstration of this verse, of a commitment when people need it most. I mean, they've become dear friends to me, and so I was there for whatever they needed, and some of you were, and just sitting in the waiting room while the mom and the daughter are in this tower just trying to figure out what's going on, and the dad is coming up and down, and he doesn't know how to express what's happening, and that's his personality anyway, but just not knowing what to say because it's his own daughter, and we just don't have answers, and we have no idea what to do, but the people that rallied around them were just there. Whatever you need. And so meal trains began to be formed, and there were so many text threads that finally somebody who's really good at organization said, guys, I'm calling it. We just have to have one thread. Like, this has become the Wild West of figuring out who's doing what. But then it just became, what do they need? And so people started bringing stuff to make them more comfortable to sleep at night, and bringing not just a meal train for when they got home, but food. And the mom has some dietary restrictions, and so that got really complicated. And I remember one of my friends who was a dear friend of theirs, knowing those dietary restrictions existed, and they needed to eat because they hadn't eaten because they're just so worried about their daughter. He walked miles to a Mexican restaurant to get what they needed. And because there was a language barrier, he ordered way too much food, because he just said, this is what I need, and they didn't understand him, so he like doubled it or whatever. I mean, he spent almost $100. And I remember talking to him about it. And it didn't matter how far he had to walk. And it didn't matter how much money was needed. He was going to do it. And there were so many other people that had that same attitude, that it didn't matter the distance and it didn't matter the cost. They were there because somebody they loved and somebody they were in community with needed help. And so they were going to pick them up. He gives a third benefit. He says, if two lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? A commitment to one another, it brings comfort. It brings companionship, and it brings a strength to relationships. That same dad that I just talked about that's gone through that with his daughter, he and I are in a Bible study with a few other guys. And we meet on a monthly basis. And the way our Bible study works is that we pick a book of the Bible, and then each time we gather, we just have identified a few chapters from that, and we just work our way through a book of the Bible over the course of months. It takes us a long time to get through a whole book, and the reason it takes us such a long time is we just like being with one another. Monthly basis, we start about 7 or 7:30, and typically I don't get home till after midnight on that Tuesday night when we meet. I mean, we are just there a long time. And admittedly, there have been times where we've gotten to where it's like, well, should we get into the study? And somebody's like, let's just keep talking. And it all centers around this idea of the comfort and the companionship and just the relationship that we have with one another and just wanting to be together. There's a group of girls in our church. I call them girls. They're women that love being together so much that they go on vacation with each other, and they plan these girl trips, and they do all of these things together because they're friends. And they long for that companionship and that friendship. Our production team, the people that make Sunday Go every week in and out, they have an annual camping trip that they go on, where one of them has a boat, and so they go to a campground that has a lake, and they say, here's what I have, and here's what I have, and they pull all of the things that they have that they're stewarding, and they say, let's just all enjoy it together, and they look forward to it every year. All of that points to just this idea of just comfort and companionship and strength and just being with each other. And then Solomon says this, though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A commitment to one another brings safety, it brings security, and it brings accountability. When I was in high school, I had a man who was essentially a father figure. He was the closest I've ever had to a dad. Take me out to a meal one night because he wanted to talk to me about just some stuff when it came to manhood. And as he saw me growing, he wanted to make sure that I had some good guardrails in my life and boundaries and encourage me and challenge me in some incredible ways. And before that night, he was certainly a huge mentor to me. I mean, if you know anything about my story, I grew up at a little church in inner city Cincinnati of about 30 people. And I ended up going to school at the church from the time I was about in 4th grade until I graduated. I graduated by myself. 2 are not better than 1, I guess, in that regard. But yeah, I graduated by myself. It was an awesome valedictorian speech, I'll tell you that. He nailed it, right? The salutatorian, he was ticked. Anyway. But this man was like my bus driver. He was my gym teacher. He was my basketball coach. He taught most of the class. I mean, just like a tutor in every way. But I'll never forget that meal. And what followed is he just talked to me about what it looked like to be a man and pursue purity in my relationships and holiness. And he said, hey, I have an idea. As you continue to grow and you get older, we're not going to see each other nearly as much as we do now of every day. So maybe it's just going to be once a week if you're still continuing to go to church here through college, but it's probably going to be not even that much. What if every time we see each other from here on out, regardless of if it's every day or it's I haven't seen you in a year, we just shake hands, and in our handshake we have a secret signal that if you need to talk about something or confess something or just ask for help, I'll know. And so his idea was just as we shook hands, he just tapped the inside of my wrist. And I'll know in the moment, all right, now I'm going to follow back up with you and we're going to talk. That was almost 30 years ago. And I know the next time I see him, we'll do that. Every time we're together, we shake hands, and it is a strong, firm handshake, and we look at each other's eyes, and we just know, I'm here for you. And there have been times where I've tapped the inside of his wrist. And he's known, okay, I'm going to follow up, and we've had some incredible conversations because of that. But it's because we've been committed to just what comes when somebody needs to be rescued. And I know there's so many of you in here that not only need that, but are already demonstrating that. We have multiple groups that meet here on a regular basis that are dealing with how to battle addiction and come out of that and the recovery. We have a group of men that meet on Thursday mornings for Bible study, and I know just from hearing so many stories from that study that it has moved beyond Bible study to truly safety and security and accountability. That they call each other on what they see in each other's lives, and they say, come on, let me pick you up and let me defend you when you can't. Something that's been growing in our church more and more lately that I love is the time of prayer that we have, not just in the service, but after the service, and praying for one another. We're praying over people and we're anointing people with oil. And one of the things that's happened as of late is in our worship team, we've seen multiple worship team members sharing not just their lives with one another, but their struggles, and saying, I need help, or I need safety, I need accountability, and we're praying for one another, and it's a huge demonstration of this. If you've been a part of our men's ministry over the last couple years, you've heard us use a phrase called a band of brothers mentality, which is just this idea of that as men are going through life, they need other people that are around them that will pick them up, that will defend them. That when you feel defenseless and powerless and I just don't know if I can take another step, somebody is there and saying, I'm with you, and two can defend themselves. The truth is, I could go on and on. Countless other stories for each of those areas that I can think about, not just in my personal life, but in us as a church. And I recognize maybe for some of us, we're like, I want that story. I don't have that story. I want somebody to care for me and help me. I want somebody I just want accountability, or I just want companionship, or just whatever it is. And I understand that. And that's why it's a core practice of ours. It's to say this matters and this is important and we are in this together, and so how do we help? You know, when we say this is what I love about Sundays, we're saying we're fully committed not just to this one, but to all of them. Just as a reminder, this is what they are, and what we're saying is we're committed to the gathering, and because we're committed to the gathering, we long for these things, and we're committed to communion and celebrating that together, getting into God's word and the biblical teaching and prayer and generosity and community with one another, that we pursue those with a high level of passion and intentionality together. So let me give you some quick practical steps with this one and how we can grow together. The first one is just groups. Get in a group. I know as the guy that does the groups, it's like, of course you're going to say that. No, it matters. We're recruiting not just for new groups and starting new groups. We need people to lead them. And so there's some of you in here that are good at this already. You're in a group. Or you could be in a group, and you could not just be in a group, you could lead a group. Because you're good at facilitating conversation, and if you value relationships, we need you. We're going to start recruiting later this month for that. You're going to get messages from me about that. We need people to start groups. Why? Because the rest of you need to be in a group. And in order for us to facilitate more groups, we need high-level leaders that are able to do this. In August, you're going to be able to sign up for a group. We're going to start promoting that later this summer, and we're going to send you out as an action item out of the service in August and say, go in the lobby and express an interest in a group, sign up for a group. And September 7th, that week, we're going to launch groups. Be in a group. Another way to live in community is to serve. That there are so many areas in this church that not just, or maybe we need someone. You heard Travis a few weeks ago make mention of the summer sublist for kids ministry. We need more workers in kids ministry. We need more people that love middle school and high school students and are willing to sacrifice their time and energy to be with them. We need more people on our host team and our prayer team and our pastoral care team and so many other areas of service. We need you to serve. And what's great is the QR code that's in front of you in your chair. If you've been following along with your sermon notes, it's tracked everything I've said so far, and it includes all the links to how you do those types of things. And so the last one is just to come forward, is to take a step. At the end of every service, we invite people to come forward for prayer. We invite people to join us for Lakeside in 5. Come forward. Take a step. Make today the day where you say, I need to be all in. I need to be committed to this. How do I do it? And you know what the answer is going to be? We got a class next month called Engaging with Lakeside. That if you come to Lakeside in 5, we get to know you, and it's only 5 minutes, but then we say the next step for you is to identify where you are in your spiritual journey and how to get more engaged. And so July 20th, we do this every other month. And so it just keeps coming around. If you miss July 20th, you sign up for the next one. That QR code, it'll take you right to it. But you'll learn from those things our core practices and why it matters that we do these things together. So may we be a church that continues to say, I love Sundays and I can't wait. Let's pray together. Father, I thank you for this morning. I thank you for who you are. I thank you that I can call you Father, and that we are your children collectively. And so, Father, I pray for this series that we would be marked by it, that everything that we do here in our gathering would flow into the other 6 days a week, and that we in these commitments would grow, not just in a relationship with you, but with one another and practicing them so well. Pray this in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.